Good morning, my dear friends. Welcome back. My name is Sarita. So I recorded the first video, the first Christmas miracle, which was Homework's Partridge in a Pear Tree. And then afterwards, I recorded the second Christmas miracle, which is the candle in question that we're going to talk about today, which is Voluspa Noble Fir Garland. So I recorded that video, and then a day later when I went back, for some reason, this particular video got completely messed up. And then when trying to fix it, I made it even worse. And then just realized I needed to re-record. So here's a re-record a couple days later, but we are still talking a second Christmas miracle from the baby Jesus. This candle is Voluspa Noble Fir Garland. I don't know if you can tell, but there's this beautiful texture here. So you're probably familiar with seeing Voluspa candles in their very famous embossed glass look. So here's what Noble Fir Garland looks like in the embossed glass. How stunning is that? All of Voluspa's candles traditionally came out like this. They still do. I would say that it is the majority of what they do in terms of marketing and packaging. But they also have gorgeous tins, and you've probably seen the mini tins a great deal, but did you know that there are also, for almost every single fragrance, there are shallow tins like this, and I should have checked, and unfortunately the label is covering up here what might be ounces. I believe these are in the 10 to 12 ounce bracket, so they're not as big, anywhere near as big as I think probably 10 ounces, anywhere near as big as say a Bath and Body Works candle, which goes into the 14 or 15 ounce range. But the good news are, look at that, 3 wicks. Okay, friends, this is the format that you need to buy if you are Voluspa curious. This is the format you need to buy. If you like Voluspa, you love certain fragrances, but have found that when you buy them in the embossed glass, even one of those 22 ounce standard kind of candles, you get very minimal strength and throw, too unscented. I mean, it's appalling, frankly, how bad the strength and throw is for Voluspa. However, 3 wicks. You've probably heard people say you have to get multiple wicks for Voluspa, but then in the same breath tell you that your best bet is to buy the fireplace edition, which is 5 wicks and 80 ounces or whatever else, and $200. I completely understand if you're not willing to commit not only to that price point, but then also to that size of a candle in your house. Oh my gosh, it would be here forever, especially if you burn candles on a regular basis. This is your best bet. They really burn for a good number of hours, and they give you strength and throw. All right, close parentheses. Let's talk about this candle. So this candle is a brand new candle for the holiday season 2023. Voluspa has a fairly limited line of candles, which I appreciate. They do certain fragrances. They only roll out other fragrances when they feel confident about them. So I would say it's a limited range for Voluspa, and every now and then they'll add a new candle to the mix and see how it does. Very rarely do they add a new holiday one. So the holiday candles that they have, they've got crushed candy cane, which you know about because I've talked about that one a great deal. They also have, so up to this point, they've had a Christmas tree candle that is called White Cypress. It looks like this. It's in a very small, shy green color. Yeah. It's really stunning. But the strength and throw on this one, even for Voluspa's continuum, is way at the weekend. So even if you go to smell it cold, you have to really bring your nose into that candle to get any sense of the fragrance. It is so weak. And then, I mean, I burned one once. I bought one from Bloomingdale's. It was unscented. So I can't recommend White Cypress. And I'm really happy about this one. They do also have a couple orange pomander candles that tend to come out right now in this season. So they've got, I think, a hinoki wood gilded pomander, which I really like. It's sharp, it's abrasive, and it's like maybe a little bit of an acquired taste, but I think it's a really great fragrance, and it usually comes out in a very silver kind of packaging. Unfortunately, the strength and throw on that one is not good at all. A little bit better is their like goji, taraka, I don't know what. Less spices, but a very citrus forward candle, but I don't like the fragrance as much with that one. And again, it's still plagued with strength and throw issues, as most Voluspas are. So that's kind of their holiday lineup. I would say the real standout is, of course, crushed candy cane, but with bad strength and throw. So definitely get it, as I have reviewed it before, in that shallow 3-wick tin, which is still really stunning and fairly affordably priced at $26, I believe, for one of these. Because they're tins rather than glass, they can bring that price point down a little bit. And then if you're lucky enough, especially if it's a seasonal candle, to get it on, you know, a sale, 20%, maybe even a 30%, you're gonna get this down in like the $18 range, which I think is very reasonable for a fairly premium candle that is going to last you some amount of time, and the packaging on it is so gorgeous. So this is one of their first new holiday collection, inclusions in a really long time. And Noble Fir Garland, I think, is going to take the place of white cypress, or white spruce, which is a really good thing, because this candle, like if that white one is like a 2 on a scale of 1 to 10, this is like a 9 or a 10. It is so great. Melanie, Mr. Kong's mom, discovered this season too. She loved it so much, she bought it in that huge fireplace edition. Again, you don't have to go that route. Get this in the baby tin, and you're gonna get a really good strength and throw. So that's the Christmas miracle for the second Christmas miracle for the season, which is a Voluspa candle that gave me strength and throw. This candle, I'm not kidding you, and I still have a good like 2 burns on it. By the way, look how clean that burns. They do coconut wax, which is actually quite messy and soft, but is in theory good for strength and throw, although Voluspa has certainly not been exploiting that over the years, and is super clean. Tends to be quite expensive as well, but very premium, like plant-based wax, if that's very important to you. And burns super even. You do need to wait till it pulls all the way to the edges if you want it to not tunnel. But you can do that within an hour and a half, whatever else. So I have a couple more burns certainly still left in this. Every time I burned it, friends, it got up in the 7 to 7.5 range. Every single time. There were moments where I thought it might have even gotten up to an 8. So for most of its time, it lived back in my big master bathroom, and then filtering into my like master bedroom. And I leave the French doors closed, usually burn something out in the front of the house. So I would go back, I'd open the doors, and it would hit me. It just would. And like I said, consistently in the 7.5 range. You can't do much better. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Some of it has to do with the fragrance profile itself. So while you usually open the jar for a Voluspa candle and get a powerful cold impression, notwithstanding a couple like the white one, you usually get a strong cold impression, and then you burn it, and it's like all the strength and throw goes away. This one is definitely the boldest cold impression that I've got from a Voluspa candle in a real long time, and it translated on burn. Now, part of that could be the format of the 3 wicks, which I highly recommend across the board. But I do think that given this scent profile, which we're going to talk about in a second, I know I'm burying the lead here, because it's extremely like coniferous tree forward, and those scents often amplify quite well. I think you might actually get lucky. No guarantees because I didn't burn it. You might get lucky if you got like that embossed 22-ounce candle from Voluspa. You might get up in the 5 and 6 realm, even with that, like, I don't know if it's, I think it's single wick. It might be double wick. I think it might be single wick. I wouldn't be surprised if you got a 5 or a 6. 5 or 6 is a little light for some people. It's a little light for me. And for me personally, as lovely as those glass embossed vessels are, I want more strength and throw, and I think these are stunning enough that I would spring for this. By the way, when you burn it, you can kind of set it on its like lid. It's really nice and it's very convenient. Or if you really love the lid, you can kind of display it behind or whatever. It's just really gorgeous. But I do think that given the way that this particular fragrance is built, I think it amplifies. So I think you would have better luck than the usual Voluspa variety if you were to spring for like one of their more standard glass vessels. Okay, enough preamble. Let's talk about the fragrance, which is amazing. So the fragrance here is a very strong tree. I mean, it is a fir, it is a spruce, it is a beautiful, authentic Christmas tree kind of smell. And it's a little unusual for a Voluspa candle because Voluspa tends to do conceptuals more often than not, and they tend to be more perfumey conceptuals. I'm not a huge perfume person. If you're not either, don't necessarily be scared off by that because I don't love perfumes. I love the majority of Voluspa scents. They have a very like just a very thoughtful and tasteful kind of hand when it comes to blending these particular fragrances. Many of them lean at least unisexual, so not necessarily like a heavy feminine. They don't have any that are like heavy masculine cologne. Most of them lean a little bit more feminine, but again, not necessarily in an overwhelming fashion. But they do tend to mix a lot of amber and a lot of like sweet musk, usually a higher, more perfume kind of musk, the way that patchouli gets when it's like really up in that high refined premium perfumey kind of direction. Really their fragrances are fantastic, which has always been so disappointing how badly they perform, given the fact that their fragrances are great. Their packaging is like an industry leader, frankly, and then they just really drop the ball on, you know, actual burn performance. Anyway, it is a little unusual to get a candle that is as sparse as this one is and is as authentic as it is and outdoorsy. To my nose, I'm not getting hardly anything here that is not just tree. However, the greenery is mixed with something that to my nose is a little on the herbal side, which is adding again this really nice, not only a brightness, but a spiciness and a bite, and just a little bit of contrast with that spruce. For me personally, it goes in a vegetal, almost Italian parsley kind of direction. And I hope again that doesn't scare a whole lot of you off. Italian parsley is the flat parsley, which is a little softer and a little warmer than like the curly parsley, which is super peppery and bitey and frankly less nuanced. So Italian parsley is a little softer, but again, it's got that beautiful bright vegetal spiciness. And I think it's very Italian parsley forward with that spruce and that fir behind. And those are really the two dominant notes here. They're kind of aggressive and they're just gorgeous. I mean, it's this range of beautiful, sharp greenery, basically. And it works so well. There is something behind it that is a little on the musky side, but it's not something that is immediately obvious. So let me tell you what the official notes are. The official notes on this one are noble fir needles, obviously, cedar wood, glowing amber and cashmere musk. And they do go with amber quite a bit and cashmere musk. On paper, this looks like a Voluspa like kind of formula, but I'm telling you that upon smelling it, you get almost no amber and musk, and all you're getting is that amazing like holiday greenery like vibe, almost as if you were burying your face in a Christmas tree or in a bowl of freshly cut parsley. It is fantastic. It reminds me a lot of Fraser Fir from Times, and I actually would not be surprised if Voluspa is consciously kind of mimicking or chasing that particular vibe, because it's been so successful for Times, which is actually a very similar company to Voluspa, and the profile here is very similar to that Fraser Fir. So the Fraser Fir from Times does have musk on the bottom. I would say that the Fraser Fir candle goes mid-range to base. Whereas this one, and I think it's due primarily to that like Italian parsley note, which opens it up in a very bright kind of way. But also I think with the amber that Voluspa tends to use, it tends to not be basey. So their musk and their amber, again, is more higher range and more in the refined perfumey category than in the bottom, like more masculine kind of musk. So I would say that this candle goes mid-range to even low-high range with that parsley. So it's very similar in vibe to Fraser Fir, and it performs similarly, if not better. It's very super authentic green tree like that, but I like it because it is different. It's got that herbal element to it that just makes it this much warmer and brighter green, and it's not just a dupe of Fraser Fir. I mean, it places it up in a higher range, and I think is super successful, super successful. I mean, so much so that I would even consider, I mean, I will definitely burn it next year when it comes around, but I would even consider like putting this in the like Hall of Fame. It's like that good, and I know we're getting kind of crowded in my Hall of Fame all of a sudden in one season. Really great. So as with Fraser Fir and with Voluspa, when you see those amber and musk notes, it's not to detract or add another element to the candle so much as kind of ground and add richness to what it is that you're primarily smelling, which is greenery and the most authentic variety possible. Friends, with that kind of performance at a 7.5 every single time that I lit this up, it is an amazing candle, and I highly recommend it. If you're going to try it, please try to find it in this tin for a very reasonable price. Make sure that you like it before you experiment with other varieties for sure. But I am so happy to be able to highly recommend a Voluspa candle, not just for the fragrance, not just for the packaging, but for the strength, for the throw, for the burn performance. Friends, it's a Christmas miracle. It really is. And please let this be indicative of some maybe performance improvements that Voluspa is going to try to initiate. That company has been very like invulnerable to criticism, to critique, to nuance and innovation in a way that I think has detracted from, frankly, its stature as a candle company, at least amongst the demographic of people who burn candles seriously. Let this be like a page turning for them. Seriously, this would be incredible. Anyway, highly recommend it. I will link it below wherever I can find it, but at this point, given that it's limited edition and holiday, it may be a little bit hard to find, especially in this format. I've got several more of these formats that I'm going to be burning and reviewing of like other long-standing candles. So I've got a Santiago Huckleberry, which is my personal favorite from Voluspa. I've got the bamboo candle. By the way, that bamboo candle for them, which is a very high bestseller and probably their more masculine leading candle, actually, despite the packaging, which is not holiday-ish, is a very nice Christmas tree kind of smell. So I would definitely go for that before the white cypress one if you wanted to try another kind of tree variety from Voluspa. But now since this has come out, like, don't even bother. Just do this garland candle. It's incredible. And I think it should be around in their holiday collection for quite some time. I can't imagine it hasn't been successful. And like just a real, like, I just think for those of us who burn Voluspa, this has been like mind-blowing, this whole experience. So in many ways, even more of a Christmas miracle than even the partridge in the pear tree and the Homeworks giving us like a decent strength and throw. And if I can say, was a little bit more consistent in its strength and throw than that partridge in a pear tree by Homeworks. Oh my gosh. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that miracle. I'll catch you in the next one.